What is up, everyone? Matty Ice Disc Golf here, coming at you with a tutorial video on grip. Now, grip is a very important piece of the throwing element in disc golf. And before I get into it, I want to share some of my credentials. I am an aspiring professional disc golfer. I started about 6 months ago, but I have a background in ultimate frisbee in college. I go to college at the University of Texas for physics and biochemistry, and I have used a lot of that to drive my passion for figuring out the physics of disc golf and how to just get a disc in the air controllably and really far. My personal distance is like 550 to 600 on a good drive, and that is only in the recent month and a half after I had a huge breakthrough with my form, with my how I hold a freaking disc. That actually has a huge part in how far your disc goes and how well it is controlled. When I first started, every single video, every single tutorial said, you can hold a disc however feels comfortable, and that is going to generate consistency. And so I went to a natural alternated power grip here with my finger up on the little flight deck. And that is what felt most comfortable at the time. But as I learned a few months later with a slow motion camera, that being the last finger was actually causing me to release nose up a lot of times, which caused me to hit some canopies that I shouldn't have hit, or make discs that are extremely understable all of a sudden just be freaking destroyers. So yeah, I had a big issue with that for a long time. And it wasn't until I watched a Paul Ulibarri video at midnight from about 8 years ago explaining grip that really helped me fix my grip. And then I did some research into the physics of it and how it helped me gain so much more consistency. So we're going to get into that right now. So I'm going to be explaining why the power grip is the only grip you should be throwing on any shot with, I'd say about 50% or more power, especially max distance. And here's the form of power grip, how I'm going to explain it to help you get in there. So you have the little butt in your hand, right? A little crevice. You should put the disc right there, and it'll stay in line with your arm, right? And then from there, I want you to naturally curl all your fingers into the disc. So you have some natural cock of the disc toward your forearm already, which will help kind of get it in a powerful position for the release. See, it's already cocked a bit. It naturally does that when you roll your fingers in. And then, if you see how my fingers are rolled in, it naturally creates this flat nose angle that is aligned with your arm. It's not a matter of me having to put my wrist down. It's naturally down because it has to be to get that pointer finger down under there. And that helps with generating a consistent flat nose angle, or at least controlled nose angle. We're going to get into how you get it to stay flat while you're throwing it. And so that automatically helps you come through at whatever angle your shoulders are pointed at. Really key point to your grip. Next, we're going to talk about how hard you should be holding the disc. Now, I'd say 50% and above power, like you're going for, let's say my 50%, I'm going for about 300 feet at 50% power, right? I am going to still be white knuckle gripping almost the disc, because it's not a method of timing your release with how you let go of the disc. The disc has to rip out of your hand with the rotational torque. That's where that natural curl towards the forehand comes into play. And if you have the right form where your hips drive, your shoulders drive after, and that disc lags behind, it's going to get that natural torque to rip out at exactly where you're aiming. So all of a sudden you take out that variable of having to worry about letting go. because it's going to rip out exactly where you're aiming. And then from then on, your only problem, grip-wise, is going to be early releasing, because that will only be because you let go of the disc. Because if you think about letting go of the disc, you're going to early release. If you forget about that, only think about your run-up and your torso being aligned how you want your disc to fly, you're going to be fine. Your disc is only going to go where you're aiming. And then grip lock at that point, where you all of a sudden shank a disc, that is only going to be the result of poor form here. It's not because you grip too hard. Grip lock, I think, is a horrible term to ever describe a shot that is pulled on a max distance drive, because that's almost never actually the issue. The issue almost always arises from your shoulders turning too early, kind of following the hips, and then all of a sudden your axis that you're aiming down starts all of a sudden getting worse and worse, more and more pulled, because if you don't lag properly and you turn with the shoulder, all of a sudden you're moving that whip motion slowly further and further off course. So all of a sudden, grip lock should no longer be an issue with your actual grip. You're taking that variable out, and all of a sudden, the only thing you need to worry about is not letting go of the disc, never thinking about letting go of the disc. Make the disc have to rip out of your hand. This makes you generate additional torque on the spin of the disc, because now it has to rip out of your hand, which creates a lot of friction from that motion, which gets more whip. You'll get naturally more snap, and the disc will want to generate more spin immediately out of your hand, which gets the disc to fly properly. And now your disc can handle more arm speed without going grip lock or early release, because you're holding on as tight as possible and it's having to rip out of your hand. So now all of a sudden you can reach those 70 to 80 mile an hour arm speeds and still throw it in the correct direction where you're aiming. That's the power of the power grip. It's insane. And that is the true physics. It generates more spin and so much more consistency, because now you're taking the variability out of your wrist having to point down. It's going to naturally do that. And your fingers. You don't have to worry about everything your fingers are doing, thinking about releasing in a certain direction. That's all just a matter of where I lined up. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that so helpful? I think that's amazing. That little piece of information right there took me from a 900 to a 950 rated player in about a month. Power grip. It's insane. I recommend using it. It's really game changing if you are not already thinking about that consistency and just having this information in mind already. And so then you got to think, okay, well then how do I control nose angle and anhyzer and hyzer from then on? Because if I'm not supposed to be thinking about my wrist pointing any which way, it's supposed to naturally stay flat with my forearm. How am I supposed to make it nose up or nose down if I want it to? Well, that all comes from your torso turning your shoulders. So from then on, you don't have to worry about this crappy, unreliable muscle, the small little muscle determining where your disc goes. All of it is generated from these big, trustworthy, controllable muscles to shape your shot. And that's all you need to think about in your throw. All you need to think about when you are going to throw, when you have a power grip, is, all right, I want a deep hyzer with a nose-up angle. Okay, I'm going to run up, lean forward, and lean slightly back with my shoulders facing up. And it doesn't matter how I run up with the disc, because when I release, it's naturally going to do that big hyzer nose-up angle. It all is generated from here. And then from then on, I just focus on form and holding that position while I run up. That's why you see Paul Macbeth or Kevin Jones especially Kevin Jones, because he throws a lot of massive hyzers, they run up already in the position that they want the disc to be released in. If you see Simon Lizotte where he throws those massive sky anhyzers, he's leaning really far back because he knows the only way his grip is going to allow him to throw that big of an anhyzer is if he whips it up. You can't do that like this. And so he runs naturally. You'll see his shoulder lead that shot up. It all comes from the torso from then on, which is so much more controllable, so much more usable than this crap. This crap needs to only focus on holding really hard, holding on for dear life. That's all that needs to focus on. From then on, you just generate your whole shot from this pivot, because it's always going to release straight when you give it enough power. And so you just generate that power, whatever angle you want it to be released at, and that's going to get you your ideal shot. That will give you so much more consistency on those 50% power and up shots. I promise you. It's still helping my game today. I'm still getting better and better at it. I'm not perfect at it by any means, but thinking about throwing a shot with these concepts in mind, it's going to change again. It will. If you enjoyed this video, got anything out of it whatsoever, please be sure to leave a like. And if you're interested in getting more content like this, be sure to subscribe. I'm going to be releasing content like this hopefully once or twice a week, where I'm either playing a course or giving advice and tips. So if you are looking for videos like that, this is your channel. In the meantime, I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace out.